Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're going to talk about players that are trending up and players that are trending down. This is the second time we've done this episode this year, but now that we're either, some people have drafted already, others have drafts this week, possibly after this weekend like we do. It's good to see who's moving up our boards, who's moving down, and trying to, get those players picked, because, we just got done with couple different listener league drafts Sunday night, and the values are just getting all over the place. Like, players are definitely moving up the board. How many times did you see that, Jeff, in those, like, some players we've talked about, like the Mike Williams types, the Chris Godwin types, even Geronimo Allison, I think, went early in a couple. Those like wide receivers are moving up. There's other guys moving down. Alshon Jeffrey's definitely moving down, I think, in a lot of people's minds. He's been sitting there in these, every time he's later and later in this draft. So we're going to talk about some guys that stand out to us. But before we do that, make sure you guys go check us out on Twitter at the FF Prophet or Instagram, Fantasy Football Prophet. You can also go to Patreon and become a patron of us. It's patreon.com/fantasyfootballprophet. You can go there, check out all the different levels we have there. And also, we're on YouTube, youtube.com/fantasyfootballprophet. But before we get into the episode, I want to bring up one more time. I'm going to bring up RubeSheets, RubeSheets.com. If you listened to yesterday's episode, you got to hear that I used RubeSheets for my auction draft, didn't let Jeff in on it, and I think it helped me quite a bit. The values, what RubeSheets does is you put your values for your league in there, and it, as the draft is going, it changes the values of players, so you kind of understand where, because as the draft goes, you might see you have a $45 value for a player or something, but maybe based on how many players have been taken and there's only one guy left at that level, he should be worth about 55, 60 at the time, and RubeSheets does all that for you, changes the values for you, keeps you informed, so you're not messing around, you're not, missing out on players you should. So I'm going to try that again this weekend in our big draft we got going, Jeff. I don't know, maybe I'll let you in, I'm not sure yet, but we got the big one this weekend. So we'll let everyone know what happens after that. But let's go into trending up, trending down. Who do you got first? Let's go trending up. Let's start on a positive note. Who's a player that's moving up in your mind?
Sadly enough, because running backs are so incredibly expensive in every draft that I've looked at, a guy that is trending up for me where pretty much from obscurity into maybe a flyer at the end of my drafts is James White.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm really alone on this, but what solidified it was obviously he did well in the touches he got in the preseason. He did well last year even. He got more and more work. And you look at the running backs that they have currently. I was a big Burkhead fan. Now he has a partially torn knee. I don't know how you play through that. I don't know what is going on with that. You feel like you're just waiting for him to get hurt. And then Sony Michel has already gotten a little banged up. And on top of that, the only thing that worries me about him, I think he has huge upside, but is his fumble, his tendency to fumble in college. It wasn't huge, but it's enough where I know that if he does that at all for Belichick, he is going to get benched. And James White can be used in the passing game a ton, and they love that. I think this guy, and he was 48th last year, and I think he will get a lot more work. And if an injury occurs, I think this guy is going to be an absolute steal. So that's why James White is on the radar now. I've been grabbing him at the end of drafts because running back is a terrible place to be right now.
Yeah, he's starting to move up on some boards. I've seen it. He's as high as 26th, actually. And this is standard. Standard, I'm talking, not even PPR.
Wow.
He's as high as 26 in a standard rank. So it is. It's just Burkhead, anytime you hear tear, it just doesn't sound good. This is supposed to be relatively minor. But
I don't know how a tear of your knee can be minor.
You just hear that and you're like, oh, I don't know about that. So you do worry. And then, Sony Michel, he's a rookie to begin with, which you never know. Belichick's going to use rookies, and then injured too. And even when White's going to have a place.
Yeah.
He's going to do something there. He always has. He's going to have value, especially even more in PPR. So he's been moving up for me too. I haven't picked him up in the league yet, I don't believe, but he's on my radar now. He wasn't on my radar before.
Yeah.
He wasn't at all.
And Craig brought up an excellent point as well. This is standard that I was even talking about. So if you are PPR, that should be shooting up way higher in your list because he will be relevant no matter what in PPR.
Yep. And Yeah, he just will be. He's a pretty good pick there. I'm going to go wide receiver here in my first one. And I'll say Marquise Goodwin, who is just a lot of good news out of camp. Seems like him and Garoppolo working well together. You don't really hear much about Pierre Garçon right now. I don't know. I mean, there isn't any bad news necessarily, but you just don't hear much about Pierre Garçon. It's all positive about Marquise Goodwin. And you try not to read too much into camp news like that all the time, but when it becomes overwhelming and you hear it all the time, that's when you start to believe it. And it's not based off one story. There's a lot of good stories about it. I've been picking him up more and more, but I've also seen him trending way up in drafts. And you're not getting him for any kind of cheap price anymore. And he keeps going for more money in auctions. He's further and further up in the draft. So you might actually have to spend a little bit to get him now, but I think it's going to be worth it. I think he did look really good at the end of last year with Garoppolo. I think that's probably going to continue. And I like getting Goodwin as like my third receiver now. If you can get him as your fourth, you feel great. But he's definitely making his way into some of my teams. So. Yeah,
I like him there. I think you said it all. I don't think we know yet, but I think that is a logical leap when you're talking about the weapons that they have. He really does have an opportunity to establish himself as the number one this year, and that's pretty exciting. I think that's a very valuable pick.
Who you got? Who else you got on your list?
I'm actually going to, and this is I went a little deeper on this one, but I'm actually going to lump two rookies together, and I think both of them have upside. Once again, this is late, but they're wide receivers, and I'm going to lump James Washington, who I absolutely love, and I think is still relevant even though he's the number 3 wide receiver on Pittsburgh. And we've seen in the past that can still be a relevant place. When Roethlisberger, obviously everyone's attacking Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Martavis Bryant. These guys have excelled in the 3rd wide receiver spot. And this is definitely there's no chance he's going to overcome Juju. But I think that he could be just forgotten and run around wild. And I think he could pay some dividends. And the other guy is Christian Kirk, who I liked anyway, but the more and more I hear, the more and more I think he's actually relevant to have on your team. And I do believe that maybe not week 1, but I believe very shortly after he will be the wide receiver 2. And I think there is a whole lot of catches to be had in that offense because no one has claimed them outside of Fitzgerald.
I do like Kirk. Washington, I like, but I'm not sure.
It's a stretch. It's a little bit of a stretch, but I still like.
I guess the only difference is he's probably the 3 and Kirk's probably a 2. That's really, the difference there. So I do like Kirk. I like picking up these guys. I've been finding myself picking up rookie receivers in drafts all the time, and at the end of my bench because I don't like a lot of there's some players I do like down there, but it's like the Chris Godwin types, the Mike Williams types, the second-year guys, and I like those guys. But if it's not them, I want the rookie receivers. I don't want those other, those other wide receivers who I don't want like Tyrell Williams.
Exactly.
I know he's ranked okay sometimes and he might put up some good weeks, but I think I know what he is. I don't necessarily want him. I don't want Tyler Lockett anymore. I think I've seen Tyler Lockett enough.
No, and I think that is the lesson to take away. Yeah. I think you got to go after some of the top guys you absolutely want. And then you find value with the people you can fill in at the end of your bench, if you will. So, no, I'm not going to, like you said, I'm not going to find value in these mid-tier guys that you kind of know what they are already. I'd much rather put it towards someone who can steal a role because no one's seen him yet and not pay anything for him.
Yep.
So that's the big one. That's why I think, even James White, James Washington, Christian Kirk, they're moving up on my boards because that's where I can find value compared to saying, even for me, I think Alshon Jeffrey is moving up a bit because I know his health is gaining and he's still undervalued. So technically he's moving up, but is he moving up enough when he's only jumping over, say, 2 people? So that's kind of why I went for these guys who seem kind of, maybe they feel, unproven or they're not going to be worthwhile. I think this is where you can find the value right now.
Well, I'm going to probably completely contradict myself with my next player.
Okay.
Because he seems to fit that relatively boring, we kind of know what he is type player. Jamison Crowder.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually pretty funny.
Because he's above that bottom tier though, because he really is in my mind. And I think he's going to become Alex Smith's main target. That's the thing. Alex Smith's typically a safe quarterback. Crowder's a safe receiver. Is going to go to Crowder. And the thing is, you don't have to spend anything to get Crowder. In our auction draft the other day, I got Jamison Crowder for $3. It is, that's why no one really cares about him, but he's the one, if, out of these kind of players that I actually do want. I think as like a third receiver on your team, I think you're getting a pretty consistent player, especially with Alex Smith. Who else is Alex Smith going to throw the ball to? I mean, where is the ball going? Is it going to be Paul Richardson, Josh Doxson? I don't trust those guys. Jordan Reed, I can't trust him to be healthy. Chris Thompson is going to get some catches, but he hasn't even played yet in the preseason. And at one point, he said he's not going to be right till November. Jamison Crowder is going to pick up a lot of targets. He's not going to be flashy. It's not going to be, not going to put up huge weeks for you, but especially if you're in a league that starts 3 receivers like we are, I think he's that perfect number 3. And then you get the rookies on the bench that could break out, but you start the year using Jamison Crowder, who you just know is safe. And that's why I'm going with Jamison Crowder a lot more.
Yeah, and I can completely understand that. Once again, I think that is a PPR guy that gets bumped up if you are in PPR. Yeah, and I don't think it's anything sexy, but I do give you this. It's not the same old because, that whole team has been in flux for the past 2-3 years, really. And he is a relatively young guy, and he's going to get a brand new quarterback that fits his playing style better. So I don't think it's necessarily like we know what he is. Yeah. I think he does have the ability to grow a bit. I don't think he's going to be like a flashy guy, like you said, but I think he can turn into even more of a possession guy.
Yeah, and I just think he is because he's not flashy, you can get him for nothing. And it's especially in an auction. Snake, he's still going to go higher, but in an auction draft, especially when his name comes on the board, no one cares.
No.
As evidenced by our draft the other day,
yes,
no one cares.
No one cares. And he will, that's what I love too. He will go so late in drafts that no one has money by that point anyway.
Yeah. No one's putting him up there. No one cares about him. So.
And all right. And before we move on, did you have anyone else for up?
I do have a couple more quick. Not a lot to. I mean, I'm going to throw John Brown's name out there because I have liked what I've heard about preseason.
And he did just catch a touchdown.
I've always liked the talent there. That's pretty much it. If he actually is healthy, I think he could be a really good player. He always had that talent. He just couldn't stay healthy.
And that's the saddest part because it's no fault of his own.
Yeah.
He would have been I won't say next big thing, but he would have been a very valuable piece in Arizona if he could have stayed healthy.
Well, and then I'll just do 2 more real quick. Chris Hogan for me. He can't go for you because you've already had mine. But Chris Hogan is moving up for me. And then I don't know if I can possibly have him move up any higher. So I just want to throw his name here just for a quick second. Joe Mixon. He's even moving up higher for me. I'm even more in love with Joe Mixon now. Yeah. So he's moving up my board even more if that was possible.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because I wrote down a bunch of names and the ones that move like in my like air quotes move up. It's just people that I feel more confident in.
Yeah.
When I'm putting money towards these guys and I'm spending quite a bit or I'm picking them, I do want to feel confident. And I have to say, when all of a sudden when the running backs are there and I have a chance at Fournette compared to, say, Hunt or even Cook, even though I think Cook is more talented overall, I'm going Fournette because I know I'm going to get my value out of him. Yeah. And also Henry. I know everyone's going to laugh at that one. But Henry, I think he is another one that I don't have as much doubt, and I feel better at getting at those mid-tier guys. I think he kind of stands out, sadly enough. And the last guy I'll bring up is, in my mind, I know this means very little to anyone else, but I was trying to figure out who I believe in that Green Bay situation. And I've chosen it's going to be Aaron Jones for me. If I can grab him late, I think that is a stash guy as well. I'm saying I'm not even giving the other two any state of mind. I think he is going to be the one there. I know we've talked about it a lot. I've talked about it with Craig a lot. But as I was staring through the names, I think his value is still there even though he's suspended. And it might take him a half a year to get that starting spot. But I think eventually it will be him.
I do too. I actually think it's going to be Aaron Jones. And sometimes we worry so much about the beginning of the year, but your league is won at the end of the year. So if all of a sudden week 8, Aaron Jones is the starting running back from week 8 on, all of a sudden you got a top guy.
Yeah.
So just if you get him on your team, just keep him there for a while. Yeah. See what happens.
And the last one we just have to bring up because he just got signed. Adrian Peterson is back. Where does he show up on your list now that he is back?
It's assuming hard to say right now, but I just will say this. I don't think there's anybody ahead of him that's even as good as him right now. Even washed up Adrian Peterson is better than P. Ryan and Rob Kelly.
100% agree. I think he is valuable.
He is just because of where he is. Those guys are not good. I like Samaje P. Ryan for a bit when he first came out, before we really got, once we got to see him last year, I'm like, no, just there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And Rob Kelly, we know what Rob Kelly is. He's kind of nothing. He's just, what is he? He's just Rob Kelly. Adrian Peterson, in this washed up version of Adrian Peterson is better. He really, truly is. So I think he's going to get a shot there. I think they realize that once they don't have much. No,
and I think immediately, like as soon as I heard he was re-signed, I threw him in like the low 40s immediately, and I was like, I'll figure it out from here. And seriously, that is what I truly believe. I think he is that valuable immediately, sight unseen.
Yeah, because of the situation of the team. It's those players aren't a challenge to him, and they know that. They went and drafted Darius Geis for a reason. They knew those other guys weren't anything. So trending down. Might as well go there. I will say, I got a name here to start. Mm-hmm. Ronald Jones.
I hate to say I completely agree, but I completely agree. I hate to say that about a rookie. I just have a terrible feeling about it. I never liked him in the first place.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan. And then now the Peyton Barber stuff is not going away.
No, and he has no one there that should challenge him. Yep. And still, it's not like he has a job. How is that possible?
Well, there's a difference in situations here between rookies. There's the Peyton Barber, Ronald Jones, and then there's the Devontae Booker, Royce Freeman. And on one hand, you can definitely see it seems like Royce Freeman is outplaying Devontae Booker, and the talk is that way. And the other way around isn't happening. Ronald Jones is not outplaying Peyton Barber, and the talk isn't dying down. They're not just going to hand him the job. And it's the more we get into the season, and Ronald Jones is still running behind him. It's going to be interesting this week in this third preseason game, not the final, but the third one, where it's really the dress rehearsal for the season. Mm-hmm. If Peyton Barber gets that start and he's the one getting most of the work, I'm really, really worried about Ronald Jones.
Yeah, and I think this is actually a good little segue between up and down. But I think at this point, I think it's safe to say that we can give like somewhat of an opinion about the rookie class that came in.
Yeah.
And with the running backs, I mean, correct me if you don't think what I'm about to say, but I think that there is two, Royce Freeman and Kerryon Johnson, who have stood out. Yep. And then Rashad Penny and Ronald Jones, who have not. And then Sony Michel, we just haven't been able to see how they're going to use them. So, I mean, I really do. I think those two are moving up. Those two are moving down. And then Sony Michel is still like a grab bag, a giant question mark that I really like. It's tantalizing. Like, I really want him to do well. But Kerryon Johnson is a guy that I think is moving up slowly. That I didn't put on here, but I think he's skyrocketing really comparatively, even though Royce Freeman is still ahead of him. But I think people kind of knew that he was going to get it a little more. And Kerryon Johnson kind of took everyone by surprise.
Yeah, and I believe those are the guys who I'm much more comfortable with. And Ronald Jones, if it's ever this weekend, he could really drop in my ranks. He really might. And I have got him in a few leagues because once he comes around, he has so much more upside than the players around him when you're drafting, and that's why I still might pick him up once in a while. But it's getting to the point where, I mean, it's really hard. He's down at the back end of the 20s now for me. I'm probably picking Carlos Hyde ahead of him. I'm picking Marshawn Lynch ahead of him. And Lamar Miller, those kind of guys. I'm picking Alex Collins ahead of him. As much as that's crazy to say. Oh my gosh. I'm just not, I don't feel confident in Ronald Jones right now at all. So.
I have to say, I mean, only because you brought him up, but Alex Collins hasn't moved up, but he's gotten more and more solid in my head because these other guys are kind of falling away. I think
he's moved down. I just moved him down one more spot.
What? How is that under, like, who? Who is jumping him?
I put Deion Lewis ahead of him now. And Royce Freeman.
You hate this guy so much. I almost feel bad for him.
Oh, wait. 1 second. He moved down one more.
now you're just doing it.
That wasn't even a joke. I just moved Marshawn Lynch ahead of him.
But I was looking at his numbers.
He's 25th now for me.
Because one of our buddies actually just traded you for him.
Yeah, because I got rid of him because I just take him off my hands.
But so I took another look at him because I was like, I don't think he's as bad. Like Craig really hates him.
He's bad.
But also, if he comes out and he picks up right where he left off,
which wasn't that good.
Well, I mean, it was. Yeah. Well, it was fine. Yeah. I mean, I mean, and the crazy part about it too, he didn't catch a ball, a single pass,
not good
until week 7, and he didn't score a touchdown until week 11. I know he was playing in that, but he was still kind of splitting time and everything. So if he picks up where he left off, he's gonna like where they're taking him right now might be a little low. Like, he could easily be in the top 15.
Ooh, no, not even.
I'm just saying. I don't hate him because his value isn't outrageous by
His
any
last
means.
3 games, 1.58 yards per carry, 2.8 yards per carry, 3.9 yards per carry. This dude blows.
He's also on Baltimore. Like, this is a ramming rod.
Let's see here. Out of games that he had double-digit carries, let's see. How many did he have? Okay, he had a few. Never mind, that's not good stuff. No, 3 yards per carry, 3.3, 2.4, 3.7, 1.5, 2.8, 3.9. There's too many of those kind of weeks.
I mean, there's a lot. I'm not saying, I'm just saying with Baltimore, and I really don't think Dixon or anyone is going to
I just think
take him away.
Baltimore sucks.
If they got a different, and I keep saying it, if they got a different running back, I would have been very, very worried. But I think he's the best one there, and I think they're going to use him a lot. But all I'm asking is just put him back up one spot. Just one spot.
Paul Perkins.
Paul Perkins. How dare you? But anyway, we can get off that one. Where were we? Down?
Down, yes. Down. Alex Collins trending down.
Who's trending down for Craig?
Yeah, he is. All right. Well, who do you have trending down?
All right. I already mentioned Burkhead, but he's trending down for me. I like the guy, but injury is just not looking good for him. Trending down. But a guy that I actually want to talk about a little bit, and it's crazy to say when a starting running back is so coveted that my confidence just keeps dwindling about McKinnon. I don't know how much I can talk about not liking the guy or thinking that he's overhyped. And now I feel like that's what I'm hearing from the news and like 49ers a bit. And after his injury, like all of a sudden people are kind of jumping on our bandwagon, and it feels a little bit good, but also it just completely deflates any hope that I had that maybe he was going to take that next jump from when he was at Minnesota.
Well, we were always we were kind of like, okay, guys, settle down on the Derek McKinnon.
We were realistic.
But I felt confident and comfortable with him as my number 2. I don't feel comfortable with it right now.
No.
Injury, yes, is part of it, obviously. But it's not even just that. I think even before that, it just didn't seem like it was working out quite like it's Derek McKinnon. We've seen him. We know what he is.
This is how you know. This is how you know. Maybe I just dislike the guy. I don't know. But as soon as you said it's Jared McKinnon, I almost wanted to go, yeah. And like that was the point you were trying to make.
Yeah, it is. We know who this guy is, and he's just not. I don't know, just not there.
Yeah,
I don't think
he's still valuable because he will get a lot of, he's going to get a lot of work. But now, I still think it's crazy to have him up as high as a lot of people do.
But now he's finally dropping down to where he should be, and the value isn't going to be as bad. I see him typically now around 17.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that.
Better.
Yeah.
He's 15th currently at ADP 16.
He was up at like 11, 12 to begin. Yeah, that's just crazy, I think.
Too much. So, yeah, I agree with that one. Say another one. I'm not going to talk about it much, but Devontae Parker. He's done with him. It's like
I told Craig I actually picked him up late in one of my other drafts, and I was like, why am I even? He's a wide receiver 1, like upside, but I don't even believe in his upside anymore.
I feel like it's over.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. As soon as I picked him, I had remorse, and I could easily get rid of him, and I still had remorse.
Yep, that's another one for me. Will Fuller. I don't know what it is. I just don't.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised on that one.
I think I'm the Texans as a whole. Deshaun Watson, I dropped in the ranks. I still like DeAndre Hopkins.
I was gonna say, really, there's only those 2 to drop.
I like DeAndre Hopkins. He's gonna stay up.
And you actually do. You don't mind Lamar Miller this year because of because of where he's at.
I think Will Fuller is that touchdown rate can't sustain itself. So if it wasn't for that, he wasn't really much.
I do like the reason I still am on the Will Fuller bandwagon is because he's still crazy fast. I still think they're going to just sling it. And I think that obviously helps him a ton. But I did hear, and once again, it's, word of mouth, hear reports, but supposedly he put on like 10, 15 pounds in order to try to stay healthy. And that can only help. Maybe it decreases his speed. I don't know. But I think if he can stay on the field, he will definitely be worth having. And I think that's the biggest one. I was like, he's just such a tiny guy in the NFL that you don't expect him to make it 16 games, but you put a little weight on, maybe it helps him out. Yeah, I'm still okay with taking if he's like my 4th, 5th guy, I'm cool with it.
But I think that's just one of the reasons why you can, when you're in draft, for me personally, I realize I'm staying away from the guy. That's what drafts have done for us, is I've really realized, oh wait, I don't really like this guy. So it happened a lot.
And I actually have one that maybe you won't agree with me on this. The one guy that I found that I'm staying away from, even though his talent is, unapproachable. Absolutely, he is a talented guy. I don't feel safe taking Allen Robinson.
Me too. That's
he keeps dropping on mine.
100% agree with that. Every time I see him on the board, I go somewhere else.
I do. I shy away every time. And it's not because he's not talented. It's because I don't like where he's at. I haven't seen him play again since that ACL injury.
Yep.
I just don't feel good about the situation.
I 100% agree. I've been doing the same thing, and I stay away from him. And he's dropped in my ranks. He's out of my top 20 now. He's down there a bit. I don't want him. I would take him, but I don't want him as my 2 anymore.
No,
so that's what it is. I don't want him as my 2. Maybe he's, and part of it was I kind of looked into his stats again. Even from Jacksonville, he had that one massive season. Year 2 wasn't it? That second year after that wasn't as good.
An inflated year, and that was when Bortles, that whole offense had to throw every single time.
Yep,
it did. It got way out of control. Everyone was catching touchdowns left and right.
There's actually some interesting stats about that season. I'm going to bring them up here because it maybe shows that year was just a little nuts, and it was trying to catch up from behind or something. So that was his second year in the league. He had 151 targets, 80 catches, 1,400 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Wow,
which is madness.
Next year, 151 targets again. Exactly the same amount of targets. 73 catches. Only 7 catches less. But only 883 yards. Almost over 500 yards less and only 6 touchdowns. It's like,
that's crazy.
What was that year, that 2015? Was that just a crazy outlier? Because the next year, with the same targets, basically the same catches, he couldn't even come close. So even his rookie year was a solid rookie year for rookie receiver. If he gets 48 catches, that's fine. 48 catches, 548, 2 touchdowns. Decent. 11.4 yards per catch. That second year was 17.5, and then the next year was 12.1.
17.
It feel like that when you really look into what he did, and you realize that just feels unsustainable.
No,
and he maybe.
And the Bears aren't going to be throwing, Hail Marys like that all the time. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. It's just, the more I looked into it, the more I'm like, maybe that was just a crazy outlier. Bortles was way up there in the ranks. They just had to throw the ball like crazy. I don't think the Bears are going to do that necessarily. So that's one I definitely agree with. I don't have anything more for the trending down.
I don't either. It was easier to come up with people that have been kind of moving up than the ones moving down. But those are the good ones. The ones that just give you pause and you're like, you know what? I wouldn't take them here. I do have to move them down a few.
Yep. All right. I'll do it. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode. We'll talk to you guys then.